Welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. It's such a pleasure today to be here with Suzanne Cohen, President of the Democratic Women of Santa Barbara County. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because we're going to talk about everything. The role of Dem Women, elections, I should say the rise of Dem Women, because you've been so influential recently, at least on my radar. I know that you've been around a long time, historically doing great things. And we'll talk about March 5th and a little bit about you and, your background. But Suzanne, welcome. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to reach out to your audience. This is my first time doing something like this. I usually am kind of a person that likes to operate in the background. So, you're pushing me to do new things.
Yeah.
That's kind of been
Yeah.
the process of my work at Democratic Women, is just constantly doing new things. So thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, go easy on me. I'm new to all this. I'm just a beginner. So
Yeah, no worries. I'm sure if you've seen any episodes, I'm not meant to be combative or argumentative. It's just a conversation about what you do and your role in the community and your organization. So let's get going. I just say that, I cover politics. My other hat, I'm a journalist, and I write about elections every year. And this last election leading up to the March 5th primary, I really felt that Democratic Women as an organization was assuming a higher profile and an increased prominence in the conversation regarding candidates. So we'll get there and talk about that. But I'm wondering if we could just start off. What is Dem Women of Santa Barbara County? What is this organization? What do you do? How long have you been around? And sort of just talk about its role in the community.
absolutely, it's good to have the opportunity to discuss that. We've been around in Santa Barbara for, I think this is our 54th year, so since 1970. There's a long history of women in politics within our community. We have a lot of representation there. But oftentimes we get confused with other organizations, other work. Are we the Democratic Party? No. Are we, the Women's Political Action Committee? No. We're our own separate organization. So we are, first of all, the thing I'm the most proud of is that we're a 100% volunteer organization. We raise all of our own money. All of our work is done by people who are giving their own time to this work. We have a little bit over 200 members in our community. We have about 900 people that participate in some way within our organization. And we have a board of 19 and an advisory board that also helps us to navigate policy, to navigate issues. So we support 9 different committees within the community. So we have people that are working on post endorsements. We have people that are working on endorsements. We have people that are working on our nominations, on our communications, all sorts of issues. And, we really try to understand and look at the political landscape and see where we can be impactful on issues, especially issues that relate to women and women and children. So right now, there's a lot of those issues. If you look at our history, when the organization was founded in the 1970s and the Nixon era, a lot of the same types of issues that they were looking at in 1970, unfortunately, we're looking at right now when it comes to some of the corruption within the Republican Party. When you look at some of the issues with regards to women's rights, all of those types of things. So I think there's a resurgence in energy within women in politics. We're answering that call. And if Democratic Women can play a part in organizing and making sure that we're doing impactful work, then that's what we want to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things, and so I want to follow up. Democratic Women is in your name of Santa Barbara County, and you mentioned we're not the Democratic Central Committee party. So can you explain the difference? And I'm obviously leading you here in this question.
Sure.
But the Democratic Central Committee is a group of elected people within the districts, and I guess they make decisions about candidates, and they offer their resources. And so for an average person who might be just kind of into politics, they might see a website or a flyer. How is Dem Women different than the Democratic Central Committee in terms of the role you play in a community?
Well, the Democratic Central Committee, and we have lots of friends there. We have board members that serve on that committee. We work together on a lot of issues. I have a lot of friends that serve there. We are definitely partners, but their role is to represent the Democratic Party within our county. Democratic Women is a grassroots organization that operates within our county, but we also operate nationally. We look at, any race that we can be impactful in. A lot of times we're hosting politicians from outside of the area. We are our own entity. We have our own governing body. We, like I say, we are all volunteer driven. We raise our own money. We do our own thing, or what we want to do and what's impactful. But there's a lot of women organizations in our area that are working. We often get confused with the Women's Political Action Committee, which is a great organization doing fantastic work. And they, have a nonpartisan mission, and they're working on getting women just involved in politics, bringing them in. So we're more partisan. We pick our line. We know that the Democratic Party is working for women, and we want to do everything we can to make sure we win races to help that cause.
So your organization might have a role or some sort of participation in what's happening in Florida or some other state across the country where women's rights are being challenged. So it's a way to have a national presence, but here locally. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking at races right now. We have a fantastic committee. That's a newer committee called Women for Democracy, which is led by a great board member, one of our newer board members, who is looking at not only the races that we're going to need to win to be really impactful in 2024 when it comes to women's rights and when it comes to some of these really important issues to women, but also can we also help grassroots feminist organizations in other areas to grow in this environment? What can we do to make organizations stronger in this environment? So we look at all kinds of places where we can be impactful. Our scope of work is very, very broad, and I jokingly always say we need more. We don't need more laundry. We need more people to fold the laundry. And it's true. There's a whole laundry list. We know what we need to be doing to be impactful. We just need to make sure that we have the resources and the people to do that work, and to also, make sure that we understand the goal ahead of us, and how to win in 2024.
Right. So as a reporter, Democratic Women of Santa Barbara County, like, I've always been aware that this organization exists. But this last election cycle in the March 5th primary, I felt as though you had assumed a higher profile and prominence in the role of the elections. And I heard this from candidates. I heard this from activists. So can we talk a little bit about March 5th? As you know, we had a Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors contest. We had 3 of them, actually. And Dem Women played a very big role in the 3rd district in terms of resources and supporting Joan Hartmann and helping her with her reelection. Can you talk about your role in the March 5th primary and how your organization was influential and impactful? Because you're raising money, you're spending money, people are giving you money to have a role. It isn't as though you're just sort of a quiet endorser of a candidate, but you made a difference. Can you talk about that, please?
Sure. I'm happy to talk about that. I think we were all everyone within our organization was really proud of the work that we did when it came to that election. We had a great election night party to celebrate that work. It's interesting that, we were really impactful, but most of that came from volunteers. We wanted to make sure that we got out the vote. We targeted women that were Democrats with a Get Out the Vote campaign that was getting out all kinds of, I don't know how many thousands of postcards went out to women to make sure that they voted within District 3, but a lot. We made sure that we were also organizing with our media buy, and we made sure that we heard some criticism that we weren't doing canvassing. So we worked with Planned Parenthood to make sure that we were partnering with them to do canvassing in District 3. So we tried to make sure that any channel that we could to win that race, we did. We I don't know if everyone understands the impact of redistricting, but this is where we get into kind of more detailed nuances of politics, but District 3 was redistricted in a pretty significant way. I think a lot of people were really scared and concerned that there was a big possibility of our district turning Republican. We've seen that happen just south of us. We've seen that happen in other counties. And I just couldn't wake up, living in a Republican county while I was doing work for Democrats in Florida or in Arizona or in these other places. So I think that was just the call that we had as women within our community, women that are doing work within politics. Like, if we can't stay on the ground in our own county, if we can't keep Santa Barbara County a Democrat county, controlled by Democrats, then we really have no business getting in these other races. You have to be able to win it here first. So we did. We won. We were able to keep our county. Joan Hartmann. I have a nice little note here from Joan Hartmann I just got actually the other day, thanking us for all of our work on that race. I just opened that up yesterday, and we won that race. And now we can go focus on, races that are in other areas that are going to be impactful. But if we did not win that race as a Democratic, if we did not win that race on March 5th, then we were going to have to continue to put, our resources into keeping our county under Democratic control. And we were going to have to, keep putting those resources in until the November election. So it's really nice. We've done that. We can move on and we can put our resources into states like, Arizona and North Carolina and Florida and in, congressional races across the state, because, those races are really going to matter within our state. We're seeing right now, how impactful those races can be. So,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit broader about March 5th. You talked about the 3rd district and the impact you had there. The media wrote a lot about the 1st district and the fact that you had, a major upset, in the end with Roy Lee becoming the 1st district supervisor over an entrenched incumbent who's been on the ballot for more than 20 years and who has received the endorsement of Dem Women in the past. And, I wrote about it. Other people wrote about it. Dem Women did not make an endorsement in that contest. They did not endorse Doss Williams, who has historically been the self-described feminist, progressive champion of women's issues. And, but you also didn't endorse Roy Lee. Can you talk about what the issue was there, or what the decision was, or why did you stay out of that contest and not endorse someone who'd been endorsed by the organization in the past?
Well, so I'll talk about our endorsement process. Is we do have a secret ballot, and not every organization does when it comes to endorsement, but we let our members vote their conscience on that. And in order to receive our endorsement at Democratic Women, you have to have a 60% threshold. So that means that 60% of our board members have to say that we want to put our resources, which are our resources, it's our volunteers, it's our money, behind a candidate. And neither candidate met that threshold of 60% of our board saying. So, you know, we're not a monolithic group. There are oftentimes differences of opinions. I will say that, you know, there are supporters for both candidates within our organization. We are very respectful in those conversations. We all understand that that we have a difference, you know, we can have different opinions. I know Supervisor Williams. He's played poker with my husband. He's been at events with my family. You know, I understand the complexities of that race. For whatever reason, when we took that vote, no one reached the threshold. And so, you know, we let that race go. We trust the voters to make a decision there. And I think that that's okay. We're entitled to say, you know, we trust the voters to make a decision here. We don't want to put our resources in that race. There were 2 Democrats in that race. There were 2 pro-choice candidates in that race. Yeah, it was a very alarming, or not alarming, but it was a very interesting outcome. I don't think that everyone, you know, thought it was going to be that way. But I have talked to a lot of people in District 1. And it shouldn't be surprising. I think that there were a lot of people who are really concerned about the cannabis issue, which, you know, impacts people's schools, impacts people's home values. It impacts, you know, jobs. It impacts all sorts of areas of your life. And so I think that, you know, the voters decided in that district.
Okay. And so it's secret ballot. So you don't really, whatever's talked about specifically about why or why not is, it stays in the room, so to speak. Right.
Yeah, I think someone said we don't kiss and tell. I mean, I think that, you know, and the answer to any criticism on why maybe we don't pick an issue on there is because there's a number of issues that different people have. Like I say, we're not a monolithic group, and there are supporters of Supervisor Williams on our board. So I don't know that we could ever really, you know, come up with some sort of statement on that. I can speak to what, you know, my concerns were, which, you know, are, for me, it was just the cannabis issue is what I heard. And that I think that, you know, when you look at where that election was won or lost, it was in Carpinteria, and Carpinteria has been really impacted by that issue. And I think a lot of people are nostalgic for the time when Carpinteria was a flower growing community with the safest beaches, and not, you know, known for you know, having the most you know, cannabis growers in, I think, the country. I don't know what the statistics are on that, but you know, and that was a risky move, and I think that, you know, it hasn't really paid off. You know, I also heard from someone who was a business person who was I was talking to, and they were just talking about the business aspects of that and for the county, and how it hasn't really been a positive financial move for the county either. So I don't really know in depth all of that issue, but I do know that it's one that I've heard a lot of people have concerns about. So.
Right. And I guess just because someone had an endorsement in the past, I think Dem Women is making it very clear. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed an endorsement for life. Things change, circumstances change, and you have to work and earn it. And maybe do more than play poker with associates, or, you know.
I probably shouldn't have said that. No, but you know, I think that or yes, that, I mean, that's true. I think that you have to earn the endorsement every time that you go through the process, and I think that it's okay for us as Democrats. I think furthermore, it's not just okay. We want to have Democrats that have different opinions that are bringing those to the table. We weren't the only, there are other clubs too within the party that make endorsements and decide when they want to get involved in a race or don't want to get involved in a race. At the end of the day, don't we want our clubs and our grassroots organizations to feel invested in the work that they're doing, especially if it's their own volunteers, if it's their own resources? I think so.
Yeah, no, that's great. That independent thinking, critical thinking, it's important. It should be acknowledged and appreciated. I'm going to circle back in a little bit to the Central Committee, but I want to go to the 4th District. So in that contest, you had Supervisor Bob Nelson running for re-election against Krishna Flores. And that's a clear choice, right? So you can make a case that in the 1st District, you've got, entrenched, well-established Democrat against a newcomer who's a little bit more of a moderate Democrat, but is pro-choice and, stands with women on so many issues. And so you can make a case like, well, that's a little more complicated. But in the 4th District, you had a very clear choice, right? If you're a Democrat. And so you did endorse Krishna Flores. The party did not endorse in that contest. And so can you talk about that contest, why you lent your support to them? And do you have thoughts on the party staying out of that race when we're really talking about the role of the Board of Supervisors and having the opportunity to get another Democrat?
I mean, I thought it was really interesting that, and this is, I think, more of a question for you that it's more interesting for local politics to focus on District 1 and maybe District 3, but there were 3 races that were on the ballot. And we looked at all 3 races. I think Krishna Flores, we have a Democrat there who is pro-choice, who is a woman of color that is going up against a clear anti-choice Republican. And that just seemed like a place for us to grow the party. I think that district, we are Democratic Women of Santa Barbara County. That said, we do focus on South County because that's where our volunteers are. But we didn't want to leave a vacuum up there. We wanted to make sure that we supported a woman who is doing, that takes a lot of courage to go out there and say, hey, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so she went out there. She was, really visible in the community, attended a lot of events. Our members saw her out there. And we met with her. We were really excited about her. She did not get a lot of support in District 4, unfortunately. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think that we could have grown the party in District 4. I think Democrats in District 4, if they are critical of the work and the support that they got there, that it's legitimate, and we should have that conversation on what can we do more as a party to be looking at North County and giving them support. So yeah, that was a clear choice for us. Of course, we're going to support a candidate in that role and hope to grow there's more. I think, that race went, 20-25% of the vote going to the Democratic candidate. I know there's more Democrats than that in District 4. We didn't reach them for whatever reason. And, I'm not critical of the Central Committee for not getting in that race. I'm sure that they were looking at where they could be impactful and doing the same types of things that we were doing. But it's a legitimate question. We're having a lot of criticism, or not a lot of criticism. Actually, from our members, I've had 0 criticism. And you look at our volunteers on what, the decision-making in District 1. But yeah, it's a conversation, and I'm glad that, you took note of it. I've been waiting.
Well, I feel like a little bit just like I dropped the ball journalistically because, we are South County primarily journalists. And the first district, of course, so much attention on that, and the third district as well. And I know I wrote a lot about how there was no endorsement from the Central Committee in the first district, and I just sort of assumed that the party would have made that endorsement of the Democratic woman running against the conservative incumbent. I would just assume that. What were you told, Suzanne? Like, why didn't the party get involved? To help make an impact there. What were you told?
I don't, I don't know that, I think that, sometimes the conversation, and you've heard it on your show, is, well, did this person ask for an endorsement? And I don't know an answer there. It'd be easy to find out and to ask, the Flores campaign, on that. But I do think that Democratic Women has a different strategy when it comes to just reaching out to candidates. We wait until usually after filing, and then we reach out to any candidate that is on the ballot that is registered a Democrat. Sometimes that leads to some interesting interviews, but we feel like that's the fair way to do it. That's the democratic way to do it, is to wait, see who is in there, and to reach out to them. We also believe in, and this has been an evolution in meeting people where they are. So making sure that we're out in the community and we know if someone is thinking about running, and that they know to reach out to us for an endorsement. We don't obviously, and to go through the process fairly. So I don't, you'd have to ask, there's people that could answer those questions. I'm not one of those people. I'm sure there were thoughtful decisions being made. So I don't want to be critical of the Central Committee. I know that they're an all-volunteer organization. I know that they're making the best strategic decisions that they can to win races as well. I have a great deal of gratitude and respect for my friends there, and even the people that maybe don't consider me a friend. I still have gratitude for the work that they're doing within our county. We have different roles, though.
Yes. And so, yeah, and what I was told, because I just recently found that out, was by the party leadership. What I was told was that Krishna did not ask for an endorsement, in time. And same with Roy Lee. Roy didn't get an interview because he didn't ask for an endorsement. And I think it goes to that larger macro conversation about, well, what is the role? Shouldn't the party be interviewing everyone, or do you just wait for people to come to you? And obviously your organization wants to interview everybody, wants to have that conversation if they're Democrats. So I think that's something that, maybe the party's going to be reevaluating, because I know they've taken a lot of criticism publicly about, now you got a Democrat who's the first district supervisor who you have no relationship with because you didn't interview him, and so that's something they have to deal with. Suzanne, I wanted to ask you about a recent podcast that I did, and it's going to kind of go back to the first district contest. But I did a podcast with Daraka Larimore-Hall, who is a former chair of the Democratic Central Committee. He's on the Central Committee now, and he's been around a long time, and he's done a lot of things in the state, and he's well known within party circles. And I covered him when he was just kind of a UCSB grad student back in the early 2000s, when he was sort of a living wage activist. So I know him, but he said some things that were very critical of Dem Women in this podcast, and I wanted to ask you about them. And I can tell already just by the conversation so far that I'm not going to be able to get you to fire too many shots here and turn this into like a public fight, but I do think it's important to ask you what you think. And so he basically said that you're just the Dem Women's just a club within the overall Central Committee party, and that the Dem Women have never articulated a policy position about why they did not endorse Doss Williams in the first district. And what he said was, maybe next time they should think about whether they're just needling an incumbent and handing the contest over to the opponent. So sort of blaming your organization for not being specific enough on policy and maybe not liking someone over personality, and that actually ends up hurting Democrats in the long run, because now in Daraka's mind you have a weaker, more moderate Democrat in office. I mean, can you respond to that? I mean, did Dem Women hand the first district over to Roy Lee? What do you think of that criticism?
So yeah, I assumed when you reached out to me to do an interview that, this is part of the conversation, and it's been a part of the conversation within the community. And I'm new to responding to these types of things, so I'm going to try to get this right. And I apologize if I don't, to the people that I know are counting on me right now to defend our organization. I think that, first you have to talk about the organization that he is discussing, and the type of work that we're doing. So Democratic Women is a robust board of 19 members. We also have an advisory board. You have women like Hannah Beth Jackson, you have women like Susan Roche, you have women like Monique Limon that are Erica Reyes. These are women that are advising us on issues at any given time, and that we hold in esteem. You look at our working board, you have on our working board, 2 attorneys, you have 2 PhDs, you have women that are working in healthcare and domestic violence, you have women that are working, that are scientists, you have commissioners. I think we have 3 or 4 commissioners on our board. You have 2 Congressional Women of the Year that serve on our board. That means that their life work was so impactful that it's actually, their life is written in the congressional record of our country. That's the level of service that you're talking about. You have women like, Joanne Meade Young, who was just honored by Monique Limon, Senator Monique Limon, as a California State Woman of the Year. Look at her story. She's someone who was raised in segregated schools. I don't know if everyone knows that, and went on to be, the leader of a public high school, or elementary school in our community. So that life story, all of these life stories, they're the backbone of our organization, and they're impactful. They're impactful. So that's the level of leadership that we have within our organization. And we also have moms, and we also have grandmas, and we also have, we have a very diverse, we are not a monolithic organization. So, and then you look at the language that was used by Dr. Larimore-Hall in his interview, and it wasn't, there were some items there that we could have discourse on, but the language was, that we were not grown up, that we were not serious. And I think that that's where a lot of women reached out to me, and not just Democratic women. I got text messages from, women who I know are on all sides of the aisle that read, or sorry, not read, but watched that interview. And that language just, what are you saying if we're not serious? What are you saying if we're not grown up? You're saying that we're childish, that we're a joke. And that is something that I think strikes a chord with a lot of women who are doing serious work, who are making serious decisions, who are trying to be impactful, who are extremely proud and grateful to their community. And to have that kind of dismissive language, just to me, I understand it. I've been there, and I think that it was a real visceral reaction from a lot of women hearing that. we can talk about the issues. We need to understand and be able to have those conversations. And my comments on that are not to, not to one person. They're to the greater community, to the greater Democratic community, that, we need to be respectful with one another. We need to have a place that allows for a diversity of opinion. We need to understand that there's not just one or two ways of thinking about issues. And when someone, maybe thinks about things differently, when a group of people, are addressing an issue in a different way, or they want to have a conversation about it, let's not be dismissive of that person or of that conversation. Let's allow enough, air in the room to be able to hear that feedback. I can hear feedback all day long. I think, and I can also take criticism. I think that I used to have a really hard time with criticism. And I think the saying was, I heard, if you're not getting punched in the face, you're probably not in the arena, or you're not in the ring. And I know that I want to be in the ring. I want to be in the arena. So I don't mind getting punched, but you have to be careful with your language. You have to be mindful of your language. You have to humanize the people that you're talking about. You have to understand the level of experience, the level of work, the pride and the joy that we have in the work that we're doing. And I'm not an enemy of any Democrat. I want to sit down and talk and understand the issues with you. So that's what my message is on that. And I hope we can move forward. And I don't want to have a, we have real enemies. I mean, there's a lot of crazy going on in the Republican Party right now. I mean, they're airlifting women out of Idaho right now to receive, medical care. Arizona is rolling back the clock to the 1860s on women, which is just, I think is just really frustrating and really horrifying for a lot of women. So that's where our members, that's where we're focusing our attention, and we want to have as many allies as we can to help us with that work. So we're going to focus on, doing that work with joy and pride. And to my members, we can feel proud in the work that we're doing. We are serious. So I don't know. I hope that answers the question. I hope my members know just how much gratitude and appreciation, our community has for all the work that we're doing. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's very well said. And before we move on, though, Suzanne, I do have one follow-up to that. He did say I used the word feminist organization. He corrected me. And so there's that. But we can use this to transition and then move out of it. But he had said your board meets once a year. You like sort of self-appoint your board members, and then you don't do anything the rest of the year. So can you talk about that? I mean,
Yeah,
you do events all year. I know. Gwen
if you
Lurie,
want to go to some meetings, then join our organization. If you want to, have places to meet with like-minded women, if you want to, have a glass of wine on after 5 o'clock and, go over strategies on, North Carolina politics, join our organization. I went through my master calendar just to count up how many meetings that we have had. We've had 24 meetings so far between January and now, and that doesn't include a lot of, I just had met with 4 of our members the other day to go through our budget to see how we can we want to send an extra $10,000 into a couple of key races, how we can strategize, do that, make that. So we have a lot of gatherings. Like I say, we have 19 board members. We are a full board. We have 9 standing committees that are doing work, which are mostly members. We do have some, obviously there's 1 or 2 board members, sometimes more on each committee. but we have one fundraiser, and we try to make as much of our resources, available during there. We're really big on accessibility, so we try to make it so that our programs, which we do, are free to the community. And we try to make it so that our membership meeting is free to all of our members. So we have actually our big fundraiser. While I'm at it, I'll plug it. Senator Tammy Baldwin is going to be here in June, on June 2nd. She is the senator from Wisconsin. She is in a battleground state. She's a member of the LGBTQ community. She is an extremely dynamic speaker. So that is on June 2nd. If you don't have your tickets, you can get them on our website. Yeah, but we have all kinds of meetings. I don't think that that criticism, maybe that I don't know where it comes from, but it's not accurate. So it just is just letting someone know that we actually do quite a bit within our community. That's our secret sauce,
Yeah.
is reaching out and making sure that women who want to be involved in politics, who are upset with the climate that we have right now, can find a place to be impactful. So
Yeah. And I wasn't at the event, but I heard, and I mentioned Gwen Lurie gave a tremendous speech at one of your events. Maybe it was an annual event. But I did hear, so I know you had at least that event, because I heard
that's a
from
different event.
a handful of people say, wow, what a speech she gave. So yeah.
That was our membership meeting, and
Yeah.
we had over we had around 200 people that were at our membership meeting. Our fundraiser last year, we had Senator Pete Aguilar of the January 6th committee, and he came and gave an incredible speech about really the dysfunction within Congress that he was seeing at that time, spoke about the January 6th committee and his work there. So, we really try to pick speakers that are with the, with the time. And that was such a big conversation that we were having in this country at that time, and continue to. The insurrection that happened on January 6th was just, it's just really a sad time that we have so many Republicans coming out saying just crazy things. But we're excited for Senator Tammy Baldwin. I think that she really is going to be an inspirational speaker. Her race is so key to keeping the Senate, and if we can't keep the Senate, then we cannot appoint judges, and that is so important when it comes to the Supreme Court, as we've all witnessed over the last few years, how much the Supreme Court can change when you don't have the ability to put people that represent our nation into power. So we're going to be living with the impacts of these Supreme Court justices for a very long time, and we need to do a tremendous amount of work in order to get back to a place where we have a court that reflects the values of our country.
Great. Well,
We're going to do that work. We're going to do that work together.
Thank you. That's really good information and good explanation of the role of Dem Women and the scope of everything the organization does. Suzanne, I want to ask you a couple questions about you. I'm always interested in the person behind the organization, behind the activism. You and I have not really talked at all up until, very recently, after I reached out to you to be on the show. Can you talk a little bit about your background and how you became such an activist, such a leader, on these issues in this community? Were you like this in high school? Have you been doing this your whole life? Can you offer me a little bit of sort of background on how you got to be where you're at right now?
Sure. I'm probably the least interesting woman to interview on our board. There's some actually some amazing women that I would love to see their stories more prominent than my own. After after college, I was volunteering, fundraising with the Rape Crisis Center, and eventually was on their board. In that process, I met amazing women like Elsa Granados, Marcia Marco, Beryl Kreisel. So these are women that are doing a tremendous amount of work, continue to do. I mean, that was a long time ago. At the time, it was Rape Crisis Center. Of course, now STESA, Standing Together to End Sexual Assault, is the name of the organization. So, but through that work, I met wonderful people that were doing incredible work. And through that process and serving on that board, I learned, I was so naive, that sexual violence and the need to end sexual violence is a political issue. I did not know that. I assumed that we could all get on board with saying that this is something we want to do. And I think we all say that we want to do that. But when it comes to putting resources into that issue, when it comes to actually putting, up legislation that's going to protect women, protect girls, protect all members of our community that are impacted by sexual violence. I should say it's not just women and girls; it's across our society. 1 in 4 women are going to be impacted by sexual violence during their life. It's a tremendous, it's a big issue. So through that process, I learned that, unless you're going to be involved in politics, unless you're going to be meeting with the people that are making these decisions, it's going to be really hard to do this work. And so grateful for all of the people that I met there. Marcia Marco, after our relationship, our friendship has been long. And after, I think, the 2016 election, or might have been during the 2016 election, we connected, and I said, I have to do something. I think a lot of women felt that way. So the climate was just so horrific. And so from there, I joined the board, met Claudette Roehrig, who was the powerhouse of our events committee and our fundraising, started working with her. Christina Pizarro was our president at that time, and she was doing, tremendous work within the community and really trying to get us to look at federal politics as well as local politics. So just started to connect with these women, and so much gratitude for all the work they're doing. EJ Bora, if you've ever been, EJ Bora is one of our longest board members. She has been honored as a Congressional Woman of the Year, knows everything about politics everywhere. I just can't say enough things about, I just can't say enough good things about her. But we would meet in her garage, which we call it her war room. And if you've been in there, if you're one of our community members who's been in there, it is like a time capsule of campaigns and her life work. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a different, picture of her with Cory Booker, a picture of her with Katie Porter, with Nancy Pelosi. There's, written notes and campaign posters, and it's just so inspiring. So the more that I got involved with and connected with these women, I think I've been on the board for 6 or 8 years. I'm not sure. I've been president for 3. The more, pride and joy, and I mean, they're my people. We have a camaraderie. We have so much pride in the work that we're doing. We are, so I think that that speaks to why we're impactful, because we like it. We want to keep doing it. It's our passion. And so at any rate, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting off track, sorry. So, but that's how I came to be involved in Democratic Women. And like I say, there's a lot of women on the board that have much more interesting stories than mine. My husband and I have a local business here. I have 2 kids that I raise. I'm a mother. You know, I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy finding purpose in this work. So that's how I came through it, through the avenue of like I say, sexual violence and realizing that that's a political conversation that we have to have.
Yeah, wow, that's so cool. It's such a cool backstory and so interesting. And yeah, I know I've talked to EJ Bora over the years, and you know, maybe I should have her on the ask her to be on the show because she's full of history and knowledge. And I still see her when I'm covering events, you know, and she's there at her table, and she's, you know,
She's
very
I'll
formidable
be
still.
at a some sort of walking through a park, and there will be EJ with her table signing up voters, just doing a voter registration. What she's and she's and EJ has been doing the work for a very, very long time, but she's one of many of these people that have been these women on our board. Marion Shapiro just was honored as Congressional Woman of the Year this year. Her story, what she's done in sexual education, her life work is just as impactful. We have all kinds of amazing women that have been doing this work and not doing it, out in front. A lot of our members are like me. I mean, I'm not really comfortable being out here. I mean, I get nervous. This isn't, when I first became president, there was a conversation because I said, well, I don't really like to do public speaking. And they said, oh, well, you won't have to do that much of it. Don't worry about it. But
Sure.
they pushed me to be able to do new things. And this is doing something new as well. So, and that's what I think when you're in an organization where you have a lot of women, you get that kind of support. So yeah, I'll also say, like, if you want to become a member, here you go. Here's the QR code.
Okay.
Is that
Great.
okay?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, thank you. A lot of people are going to want to join, I think, after this conversation. And as we wrap up, looking ahead, this is 2024. We've got elections. I'm sure there are candidates who are going to want to talk to you and be endorsed by your organization. And we have city council, we have school boards, Santa Barbara, Goleta. What role do you see Dem Women playing this year in the November election? Of course, we have the national issue, which you say you're also involved with. So, how excited, what is the energy level going into this upcoming election?
I think, there's a lot of energy that's going into this election. I mean, the talking points that you're hearing from everyone are, that abortion is going to be a key issue. And when you look at states like Florida that has a right to a pro-choice initiative on their ballot in that state, that's going to put that state. I think it's going to be. I'm going to put it out there. I don't know how we're going to win Florida, but we're going to win Florida. So I think that there are going to be a lot of initiatives that are going to be on the ballot in states, and they're going to need they're going to need support from California grassroots organizations like us in order to to get those initiatives over the finish line. But our vision right now is looking into 2024, is looking at, how can we make sure that we keep the White House? Because I think that we really do feel, when you look at what the Republican candidate is saying, that he is, is being very clear that he has every intention of not being a normal Democratic president like we've seen in the past. I think that we really do feel as an organization that we are defending democracy when it comes to that particular campaign and that particular individual. So we want to, first of all, win the White House in 2024. That is a huge goal it should be for all Democrats. We want to make sure that we are working to pass as many of these abortion rights initiatives that are going to be on ballots across our country, and to make sure that those people show up, because when women show up, when people vote for pro-choice issues, they are probably going to be voting for Democratic candidates as well, and that's going to be key. And then, you know, just make sure that we're looking to expand our reach as an organization, and to make sure that we're growing our party, to make sure that we are being impactful in whatever ways that we feel we can. So so that's my vision, and you know, and I hope that that I articulated that well for everyone. But we want to continue to do this really, really important work. And women, you know, we've learned time and time again, we got to depend upon ourselves to do this work. No one's going to do it for us. It's, you know, one of the things that I've heard sometimes people say is, you know, oh, well, this has been great for the Democratic Party, you know, the abortion issue. And I think that for a lot of women, that really hits wrong, because we know how much work we're going to have to do to get us back to where we were in June of 2022, when we had the right to control our bodies. So, you know, but that's the work we have to do. So someone has to do it. We're not afraid to do it. You know, let's get to work. I think Luz Reyes-Martin said one time, she said, this is how we win. And that always rings in my head when I'm doing this work, is, you know, this is how we win. And if we're not winning, who's winning? Well, then they are. So we have to just get to work and roll up our sleeves and do it.
Great, Suzanne. I really appreciate the conversation. I learned so much, and I know everybody watching and listening did as well. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to covering your organization in the upcoming election, and seeing the role and impact you have on all the local races and candidates, and even nationally. So thank you so much for taking the time to have the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Josh. You take care. I'm gonna put this back up. Ready? Here we go.
Yeah, hold it up there. Give people time.
Can I do that?
Just
Yeah, there
it.
you go. Join a committee. Come join us.
All right. All right. Thank you, Suzanne. Have a great
Thank you
day.
so much. Have a good
Take
one.
care.